210 River Road, Southport.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Oh yeah, welcome back to the Asylum, your refuge in a world gone mad. Got some fun guests today, got some serious content. And yeah, don't forget, visit the Big Talker website, bigtalker.live, download the app for Android and iOS devices. And of course, send us an email with any comments, questions, concerns, compliments, or critiques you may have. We cannot improve without your feedback, which is why we do it right here on the Big Talker. So, make sure that you're listening in. Get the app. You can pair the app with your Automotive Entertainment Center's Bluetooth, and that way you can take us anywhere and everywhere you want to go. So, I am going to relate to you an older story from my childhood. As my stepfather was one of the engineers and physicists at the DoD R&D think tank development known as Sandia National Laboratories that worked in collaboration with Los Alamos and White Sands Missile Range, ladies and gentlemen. This was some serious stuff back in the 70s. And one of the things, my stepdad was allowed to do was take his, stepson out to the Kirtland Air Force Base, out onto, check out what the Sandia National Laboratories and the DoD is up to. And one of them was a solar tower, right? So part of the idea back then was following the same mechanical tripe that we've been doing for, 100 years, couple hundred years now. Where we boil water, we use the steam, the expanding steam vapor to turn a turbine, and the turbine spins a magnet that's inside a coil of wire, and voila, you have electricity. Well, the problem was, or at least the experiment, the premise of this entire thing was to find a cheaper way to boil the water, because we had been using coal, right? The Atomic Energy Commission, which had an office there at Sandia National Labs, was kind of like, nuclear is kind of good. It's kind of efficient. It's kind of clean. But damn, is it dangerous. So we got any other options? So some of these guys said, hey, the sun's really hot. The sun can boil water, right? We've done that with a little magnifying glass. So what they did was they made basically a concave mirror. And they focused all of the sun's rays that were landing on probably 2 square miles of land and used mechanical mirrors on motors and computer controlled. And keep in mind, this was 70, 80 maybe, right? So computer control was still coming into its own, right? Microprocessing was still developing. We didn't have 16, 32, and 64-bit processors. We were still using 8-bit machines to get us to the moon. Anyway, they got all these mirrors to coordinate, and it was beautiful. It was fun to watch. And if you are able to, go into the visitor center, into the main building, they will show you chunks of steel, inch thick, 2 inches thick, 2.5, 3 inches thick. So they ran into a problem. And this is why they have these on display, right? The tower's really tall. It's got this white door. The white door moves out of the way. There's this, for lack of a better term, a cauldron filled with water, and the sunlight heats the cauldron. The cauldron gets hot. It boils the water. The water turns to steam. The steam expands, causing motion, right? It's pushing against the blades of the generator, and it spins on. Okay. Problem was, it was so powerful, it burned right through the cauldron. That's right. They ran into a problem. They ran into a really big problem. They can't find a material at the time that would be cost effective to make a boiler for the solar power tower. Now, keep in mind, this is 45 years ago or so. 45 years ago or so, somewhere in there. A lifetime ago. Well, this German dude right? I mean, why can't we be like Germans? No, I'm kidding. I mean like 21st century German engineers. I'm not talking like German generals. Whoops. I have a fat thumb this morning. Just want to let you know that. So when I'm touching on things in my iPad, I mess it up. Anyway, so there's this guy in Germany. What's his name? Fritz? No, I don't know. Come on, load the story. Aldo Steinfeld. All right, now this is the guy that, like, if you're going to be scared of anybody, this is the guy you want to be scared of. He's an ETH Zurich professor who spent 15 years developing a process to turn ambient air, into jet-ready kerosene. You feel me? Are you hearing this? Using the same... I mean, the tower in the photograph looks identical to the tower that my stepfather introduced me to as the solar power tower in Sandia National Labs in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Actually, same design, same concept, same principle. However, instead of melting steel and boiling water, a mini refinery on the roof of the university's machine laboratory conducted a successful test of the technology in 2019. Turns out the carbon-neutral process extracts carbon dioxide from the ambient air during the conversion process, as outlined in a new paper published by the journal Joule. Aldo Steinfeld, a professor at ETH Zurich's Department of Mechanical and Process Engineering, says his system converting ambient air into jet-ready kerosene fuel using a solar refinery tower is not science fiction. It's simply thermodynamics. This is why we need to stop with the stupid and start paying attention to how science actually works. Because a lot of people are going to push back against this. They're going to think it's evil. Oh my God, it's Satan. God can't do this. Oh, God is great. No. No. Aldo is a genius. In a 2-year proof of concept test atop the machine laboratory building in Switzerland back in 2019, Steinfeld's mini solar refinery first showed how the process works and laid the groundwork to scale the project. Both carbon dioxide, which is CO2, and water are extracted directly from ambient air and split using solar energy. As Steinfeld describes in his work in a new paper published late last month in the journal Joule, the result is syngas, a mixture of hydrogen and carbon monoxide, which is then processed into kerosene. The design of the solar reactor, the cornerstone technology, was the most challenging, Steinfeld tells Popular Mechanics. We evaluated the performance of the solar reactor based on 5 primary metrics and experientially validated its stable operation and full integration in the solar tower fuel plant. The plant grew from mini status to a larger scale test when the team operated a solar refiner at the IMDEA Energy Institute in Spain in 2021, and it will only keep growing. The solar-to-fuel energy conversion efficiency needs to be increased to make the technology economically competitive, Steinfeld said. Already, he's working on optimizing the structure with 3D printing to improve volumetric radioactive absorption, or radiative absorption, which leads to higher energy efficiency. To help turn the research project into a commercial reality, Synhelion, a spin-off company from ETH Zurich's machine laboratory, is already planning to commission the world's first industrial solar tower fuel plant in Jülich, Germany. I don't know if I pronounced that right. I just made it sound cool. In March, Swiss International Airlines announced it will be the first airline to fly with solar kerosene. I'm just going to stop right there and point out that Russia needs to be paying some serious flipping attention to this, right? Because if we can generate kerosene on a high enough scale, kerosene is a heavier hydrocarbon than gasoline, and heavier still than some of the other elements that we extract when refining oil. I don't know if y'all know how refining oil occurs. It's the same process behind distilling liquor, right? But instead of trying to condense and collect alcohol precipitate, we're actually collecting hydrocarbon precipitate. There we go. So if we can generate, now I'm going to get into some of the dealy deals and the monies or the numbers here. but it's literally making jet fuel right out of the air. The air you and I are breathing and coughing and spreading around with the COVID and God knows what else, snot and little, I don't know, whatever it is your kids are carrying and been rubbing their noses on or whatever else, right? That same air that you and I are ingesting into our lungs is getting heated, superheated by solar power and turned into jet fuel in a two-step process. Is that not living in the modern science fiction of the 50s and 40s? Man, this is a great time to be alive right now. Continuing, proving the concept was an important milestone toward industrial scale production. Steinfeld says one commercial scale solar fuel plant could collect 100 megawatts of solar radiative power to produce about 9 million gallons of kerosene per year. 9 million gallons of kerosene per year. He'd need about 2.3 square miles to make that work. The total land footprint, Steinfeld says, is needed to create enough solar plants to fully satisfy global demand. You hear that phrase? To fully... He's not looking at, like, helping Germany or maybe their buddies in... No. Fully satisfy global demand equals about 0.5% of the area of the Sahara Desert. This man is thinking ahead. He's thinking, we don't need Russia. Russia's only game is fuel. And this man can now make fuel out of thin air. This, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, is a game changer. The thermochemical process comes via 3 conversion units, all in a series. Sorry, it's a 3-step process. First, it captures the ambient air to extract CO2 and H2O before a solar redox unit converts the CO2 and H2O by using solar radiation to heat the chemicals into a syngas, a specific mixture of carbon monoxide, CO, and hydrogen, H2. The third step is a gas-to-liquid synthesis unit, which converts the syngas into liquid hydrocarbon, usable as kerosene and jet fuel. Holy hell. Okay, so it's not free, but it's about as close as it gets, man. You heat up the air, and you get solar power. There's even a little video, carbon-neutral fuel made from sunlight and air. To quote Steinfeld, we have successfully demonstrated the technical viability of the entire thermochemical process chain for converting sunlight and ambient air into drop-in transportation fuels. The overall integrated system achieves stable operation under real conditions of intermittent solar radiation and serves as a unique platform for further research and development. The process is carbon neutral because solar energy is used for production and releases only as much CO2 as was previously extracted for production. If the construction materials of the solar plant are created using renewable energy, he says the entire process can produce 0 emissions. And then we have Sean Whalen from Lions Not Sheep, who's tearing the Made in China tags out, sewing in his own Made in USA, jacking up the price $20 and fleecing his crew. That's what Americans are doing. Sean Whalen, that's the type of crap that we come out of America. And Aldo Steinfeld comes up with a way to make jet fuel out of thin air. And then we got Sean Whalen swapping Made in China logos, like tags. I mean, we are not going to survive this transition into the 21st century unless America can pull its head out of its collective ass and start concentrating on things that are important, like getting away from Russian fuel, Russian dependence on energy. Steinfeld says focusing on aviation fuel can help reduce carbon emissions from one of the leading industries contributing to that pollution. These emissions can be avoided by substituting fossil-derived kerosene by solar-made kerosene, he says. Note that solar kerosene is fully compatible with the existing infrastructures for the fuel storage, distribution, and end use in jet engines, and can be blended with fossil-derived kerosene. Thus, solar kerosene can help make aviation more sustainable. which to me completely boots that, what do they call it, sustainable aircraft fuel, the SAF that BP was trying to develop. The problem is the SAF fuel kills the engines. It destroys the engines. And you can only blend it to about 50-50, and you're still going to expect about a 20% deterioration in your engines way ahead of schedule. This is drop-in. Literally, it is kerosene. The only difference is that it was derived by reactive solar. Man, without digging it up, without pumping, without the nasty mess of all the crap that goes through kerosene now, which has to be distilled, right? Because above kerosene is gasoline and below kerosene is motor oil, right? So you have all these different hydrocarbons that when you distill a barrel of raw crude oil and it has to be refined, right? One of the first processes, or one of the primary processes, is they put it in a massive tower and they heat it almost to the point of ignition. And that sludge, right, starts to boil just like water does, just like a distillery for, a copper top distillery or whatever Popcorn Sutton was using, probably a lead radiator. Same idea. As it cools, it condenses at a different level, and the heavier components will condense at a lower level. The higher, or the lighter elements will condense at a higher level, and that's how you can use the same tower to refract, if you will, from the various hydrocarbons present in the oil, and get your gasoline, get your kerosene, get your alcohol, get your motor oils, get your cleansers, get your plastic products, right? Because some of these components, some of these precipitates cannot be used as fuel, but they are fantastic in making products like Goo Gone or socks or microfiber blankets, right? Or even the Depends that your granddad's been wearing for a couple of months. All of these products are made by distilling crude oil. I'm excited about this, can you tell? Because obviously Aldo Steinfeld is one of those products out of Germany that's the best thing to happen in a long time. If this man does not get the Nobel Peace Prize for Science and Technology, somebody is asleep on the job. Think about it. Again, one more time, this man is generating jet fuel kerosene out of thin air. And it's not that only aircrafts can use kerosene and that kerosene is the end product. I predict, because kerosene is one of the heavier hydrocarbons, they'll be able to refine, if you will, or distill this into an even lighter product like gasoline or propane or any of the other components that would that would just knock Russia right off the energy map. Now, if you want to do some Made in America stuff, let's get away from the Sean Whalen. Yeah, lions, not sheep. I mean, here's one of these people that's not doing he's not doing us any favors as Americans, and he's not doing any favors to the right side of the political spectrum, because that's what he claims. He's got Trump flags all over the deal, and he's saying, to hell with China, while at the same time buying boxes upon tons of China stuff, and then hiring Americans, or I would bet immigrants. I doubt they're Americans, because he's not going to pay for it, right? Otherwise, he would have bought T-shirts made in America. But no, he bought them in China, cut the tag out, put in a tag that said Made in America, and then resold it at a higher price. So he was profiting, again, on a lie. But, that's just what to be expected. Is that the new American way? Is that how we're going to do business in America? Is that our entrepreneurial spirit at its peak? Is that what's happening? Sean Whalen, good job, buddy. Made in America. I trust you. And the thing is, for anybody else who has that same look, right, with the neck beard and the Mr. Badass, I'm a lion, not a sheep. Yeah, well, guess what? You just damaged everybody's reputation, because knowing that you are a shyster and a liar and got fined over $100,000 from the Federal Trade Commission and are now on hard notice to make damn sure that every product that you put out is under serious scrutiny and is properly labeled, has ruined the credibility for every one of your brethren. So if you come at me with some sort of silliness like that, and you expect me to trust you by your product, consider you're made in America. No, I want to meet the guy now. Sean Whalen, what a guy. Instead, we need more Aldo Steinfeld generating kerosene straight out of thin air. And his vision is so large. His vision is so forward-looking that he is looking, his design is to provide global kerosene for the entire world to use, right? Not just like, yeah, we can help a couple of airplanes out. No. He's talking like we could fly every airplane on the planet using solar kerosene. Made out of thin air. Carbon neutral, not dug out of the ground, no fracking, none of this other stuff, no Russia involvement, no China involvement. Just a couple of massive solar towers turning ambient air into aircraft kerosene. Man, if you're not excited about that, I can't help you. But I'm excited about it. Because that is a kind of progress that we need. Right? Now, that should have been done in America, but no, we have Sean Whalen. So we're not going to be able to do stuff like that in America because we got people like Sean Whalen in the way. Mr. Lion's not sheep. What a jerk. What a jackass. Well, more jackasses in the news. An ex-Twitter employee, one of three actually, convicted of spying for Saudi Arabia. Oh, another friend of ours, Ahmad. I don't even give a damn how his name is pronounced. Faces 10 to 20 years in prison. Former Twitter employee Ahmad was found guilty of spying for the government of Saudi Arabia, according to a report from Bloomberg. The jury handed down its judgment in San Francisco federal court on yesterday, where was also convicted of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, money laundering, and falsifying records. Was previously worked at Twitter as a media partnerships manager and helped prominent figures in the Middle East and North America promote their accounts. However, he leveraged his position to access the email addresses, phone numbers, and birth dates of users who were critical of the Saudi government. Then transmitted that information to Saudi officials between November 2014 and May 2015 and received gifts in return. In 2019, the Department of Justice charged and another former Twitter employee, Ali Al-Zabara, with espionage. The agency later expanded those charges in 2020 to include a third individual, Ahmed Al-Mutariari, who allegedly coordinated the scheme. Both Al-Mutariari and Al-Zabara remain wanted by the U.S. government. Last year, human rights activist Ali Ahmed sued Twitter, claiming the platform could have done more to protect his information. According to Bloomberg, prosecutors accused Abu of working with an aide to Mohammed bin Salman, or whatever, who now serves as Saudi Arabia's crown prince, to suppress dissidents. Abu reportedly argued that he was just doing his job and blames Twitter for not securing the users' data. No, dude. Abu, you're in jail. You're in prison 10 to 20 years when sentenced. Twitter, of course, declined to comment. Yeah, we're not involved. Not important to us. Not important to the Twitters. They got other crap going on with Elon Musk, so they're sort of holding their own right there. Yeah, they're kind of holding it own. And the last bit of news is the nurse. Now, when I first heard of the accident in Los Angeles that killed a number of people and saw that Mercedes, because, you know, Mercedes is not it's not a Ford, right? So anybody who can afford a Mercedes is obviously clearing some coin. And most Mercedes, right, not the compressors or anything made by Ford. There's like a series of these weird crossovers. Ford and German manufacturers. And when you look at the footage, anybody with a rational, functioning cortex would realize, look, I'm going a little fast for the circumstances, and there are a lot of people in that traffic. Maybe I shouldn't be doing 100, 110 miles an hour. And then, you're thinking maybe there was a medical issue or a mechanical, right? One of the things I've seen happen, even in my high school shop class, a errant screw falls out, gets lodged between the throttle and the body of the carburetor, and jams the throttle wide open. Yeah, you're in trouble. What's interesting is she was the ballistic missile in this incident. She was the unstoppable force that slammed into the immovable objects, right? She walked away with like a bump on her arm. 6 people dead. And she's in court now tearing up because she's being held without bond. I don't know why she's tearing up. I have to be honest. But she's tearing up in court like it's some sort of, emotional play or something. I don't know. They're dead. You're not. Right? There had better be some remorse. That's all I gotta say. Walked away. Not a scratch. Well, okay, I can't say not a scratch. But held without bond, not going anywhere. We'll get to the bottom of that story eventually, but when you look at the footage, it is absolutely heinous, horrendous, horrible. Now, accidents like this aren't necessarily uncommon in NASCAR at those speeds, but my God, for a civilian to be rolling at that speed was just brutal. So, yeah, I think that one's going to be requiring an explainer down the road. And, we'll get to that. We'll get to that right on the other side of this break when we are joined by our friend Dan Roman from Full Circle Fitness, who's going to help me understand some of the information that I was erroneously fed as a youngster and have held to in my, throughout life. And I thought it was a way of staying healthy and measuring the fact that I'm not a fat bastard. I can still walk, I can still talk, and I can still put on the pants I wore in high school, which is actually a problem because they don't make them that size anymore. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after these messages. I hate Windows.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. We begin with the arrest in a cold case nearly 30 years old. DNA has linked a man in prison since 1997 to a 1995 rape, according to the Wilmington Police Department. Police say a recently processed DNA rape kit led to 55-year-old Freddie Anthony Jackson. Jackson has been in prison since 1997 for first-degree kidnapping, robbery with a dangerous weapon, larceny, and other charges. Jackson's new charges include first-degree rape, first-degree kidnapping, and first-degree sexual offense. We'll bring you more information when it becomes available. The Columbus County Sheriff's Office arrested and charged a man with assault with a deadly weapon and assault inflicting serious injury. An arrest warrant accuses 39-year-old Brent Stephen Freshy of stabbing a man in the stomach and hitting him with a baseball bat. The victim had to be taken to New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Freshy was booked Monday night and given a $75,000 secured bond. And the Pender County Board of Education has voted to change the name of Topsail Elementary School. A group has been advocating to change the name to Annandale School. Originally known as Annandale, the school was built in the 1950s as an equalization school for black students. The school's name was changed to Topsail Elementary in the late 60s. The school board voted unanimously to change the name to Topsail Annandale Elementary. A Brunswick County beach town is gradually adding elements to its beach to keep people safe in the water. The town of Oak Island has started displaying 3-foot-wide signs on the Beach Service Unit UTVs to inform beachgoers of risks of what color flag is displayed. While there are beach warning flags at every access on the beach, some people might not notice them. With there being no lifeguards on the beach, the signs help alert people on the beach of risks in the water. For more on these stories, you can head on over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Another hot one on our hands as we go throughout the day today. Inland communities will climb into the middle 90s later this afternoon, upper 80s to near 90 along the coast. And if you're headed out to the beaches on this Wednesday, moderate risk for rip currents and a chance for scattered showers in the afternoon hours today. As we head towards the overnight hours tonight, temperatures will fall down into the middle and the upper 70s to near 80 degrees along the coast, with quiet conditions sticking around. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Veteran Awareness sponsored by You Are Not Alone. Today's veteran homeless rate is approximately 19,750, and the numbers are declining because of the various veteran programs. If you are a veteran you know is homeless, please call 877-4AID-VET. This is a confidential and toll-free call. From this veteran to other veterans, please be there to help our brother and sister veterans. Again, the number is 1-877-424-3838. And thank you for your service.
Wake up to Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
And good morning, Carolina. It is a very busy news morning today. I'm Donna Gregory.
And I'm Jeff Rivenbark. We're glad you're starting your Tuesday with us.
Be prepared and ready to go for the day ahead.
For the time being, we are dry and quiet, but we are dealing with some patchy fog.
And catch up with the overnight news you need to know before heading out the door.
We'll have more details and more live coverage in just a few moments.
Get up early for Good Morning Carolina, weekdays at 5:30 a.m.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to the program whenever you want, however you want, by asking for Big Talker.
You like the new view, by the way?
The new view? Oh, you moved to a new room. That's what happened.
No, same room, just different area.
Oh, you took the curtain thingy down. And you rotated a little bit. Since people don't know what the hell I'm talking about, I'm going to go ahead and just put you on the screen. There you are. And you're in the new room, which looks like a dark... What is this? Oh, this is the torture chamber.
Yeah, well, this
is the 50 Shades of Grey looking stuff in here now.
You see my training bike there, my indoor training bike
there. Peloton.
No, it's not a Peloton. I wouldn't spend that. You get the exact same thing. That bike does everything a Peloton does, and it cost me $700 versus...
It doesn't have a TV on it, though.
Actually, it does. You just can't see it.
Oh, so you could do what we were doing when I was younger. A friend of our family was the bone doctor guy. What are the bone doctor? You put your bones back together.
The osteo. Yeah, now you got me
surgeon, right? I'm blanked. Anyway,
you do this to me all the time. You make me blank.
This was back in the 70s when the little stationary bikes first came into being, right? And it was a cute little bicycle with one tire, right? And you would set it in front of your TV, and he and I, it was a great idea, would make videos of walking through like forests and little mountain.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so you could watch the trails go by, and then somebody came along and kicked our ass, because not only had they done that, they tied it into the tensioner. So as the video went up the hill, your bike became harder to pedal, and it was like, oh, man. Dude, I ain't even finished my first video, and you did that. I'm out.
That's one of the things. The only thing this bike can't do is that, and they actually sell them, but they're like $3,000. I use a program called Zwift, where you can train and ride routes online. Like they have they have Alpe d'Huez, which is like Eka of biking. They call it Alpe d'Huez. It's an exact copy of Alpe d'Huez, and I've done it on this bike, but it doesn't have the controllable resistance.
But those are crazy, man. That's like hardcore training. Those dudes are now knuckled in with the little ram's head, the little ram.
Oh yeah, they're crazy. They're also shooting like crazy, but that's a different story.
Now you hit me with something yesterday that I need to figure out what the hell.
Okay.
So once upon a time, long time ago, before I met Carl Sagan, or maybe it was around the same time, I was actually recruited to do powerlifting because I weighed like $130, $140. And I could lift at least $140, $150.
Well, that's good.
Right. I was bench pressing more than my own weight. And
That's
they were
a good
like,
thing.
that's how you get scores. It's not that you can lift 300 pounds. It's how many X your weight can you lift?
Correct.
So I went through all this, it was kind of fun, and they just don't like the fact that I smoke cigarettes in the courtyard on the afternoons. But other than that, they were cool with it, and the guy, one of the coach, right, the guy, the adult that's supposed to be supervising us was doing the dip tank, right, where they put you in, they see how much water you displace, and from that, they calculate your BMI.
Your body fat and your BMI, yep.
Right? And
they still do that.
It seems that I have a BMI of like 1.4. Which lets you know that, beyond the muscle, skin, and bone, there's not much more to me.
A little bit of water and
yeah,
that's about
there's no water. Water's not allowed in this body. Are you kidding me?
A little bit of, what is it you drink? Mountain Dew?
Mountain Dew coffee. That's it, 100%. I had orange juice last week when I wasn't feeling well, so 3 glasses of orange juice and I'm healed.
Well, first of all, let me congratulate you on being able to do more than your weight in your lifting. At any age, your goal should be to do at least your weight and up to, depending on the lift, sometimes twice your weight. So, for example, squats. Wow. Squats. It's an early morning for me.
Yeah, we're still looking at the osteoporosis guy.
Yeah, really. Squats and deadlifts, you should be able to do double your weight. Now, that's someone who's really training hard. The average person, your goal should be your body weight.
Well, I would hope so. Your knees are designed to carry your body weight, and if you double your body weight, your knees are probably going to fail.
Well, if you can handle double your body weight, you got to remember, if you're doing a squat, let's say, for example, you're doing double your body weight. So I don't know what you weigh. I'll put you at $150.
Yep, that'll put me at 300 pounds of a squat.
Plus your 150 body weight, so that's 450 pounds. If you can squat that successfully, you don't really need to worry about having osteoporosis or
I doubt it, though.
other issues.
I did when I was younger.
Yeah. But now, even, because you're about the same age as I am, right? We're both over 50.
Oh, yeah.
No secret. You should be able to do your body weight in these. Now, it doesn't mean you should be able to go out right now and do it if you've never trained, but you should train to get to that level because it translates specifically to day-to-day life. Squatting is nothing more than getting up off the couch. Literally, it's, squatting down to pick up the newspaper out of the driveway, if anybody actually gets them.
I was going to say, when I see something on the ground at my age, I really question myself. Is it something I need?
Do you need it
Do I really need to bend down and grab this item? But that has nothing to do with BMI. What is BMI?
So,
it's body mass index.
I call it BSMI.
Now you make it sound like a military school.
Yeah. Bull, mass index. So really what it goes back to the 1500s of the formula. And essentially, it's a formula based on your height and weight. So in theory,
150 pounds.
You're 150 pounds, whatever your height is. I'm not going to go into the details on the formula because no one cares.
Right. But
basically, it comes out as a percentage.
Okay.
So for someone, general rule of thumb that I go by, you'll hear different things. Keep in mind that insurance companies love BMI.
Oh, I didn't know that's who used them.
Oh, that's who drives the whole thing, my friend.
So this is almost like the National Highway Safety Institute for body weight.
That's why doctors to this day stick to it, because insurance rates are driven by that. And obviously, the more obese you are, the higher risk you are insurance, the more your premiums are going to be. Funny how that works. So general rule of thumb, and this is very loose. If you are, I always say over the age of 40, some people would quibble with that, but basically a woman over the age of 40, she wants to be somewhere between 25 and 30. A man, about 20, 17 to 20, we'll say. That would be considered, quotes, ideal. Younger than 40, you're looking at, for a woman, 20 to 25%. They really, when they start getting below 20%, they risk female issues. And again, I'm talking very general here. Males under the age of 40, the ideal is probably around 15%. But most of America right now is around 40%, 35 to 40%, men and women.
And we're encouraging it by having these battery-powered scooters for your shopping experience.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, if you're going to take a walk, my God, walking through the fast food and crunchy, cheesy poops aisles of Walmart is a good place to start.
Well, here's the... Yeah, that's funny. Here's the thing. You know who Tom Brady is, right?
The football guy.
The football guy.
The flat football guy. The deflated football guy.
Probably knows who Tom Brady is.
Okay.
According to BMI, he's a fat, obese pig.
Really? Well, he's a football player. I have met NFL players. These guys are like 6'4", 400 pounds, 300 pounds, 380 pounds. These guys fold a full large pizza. They will fold this thing in half, and it looks like a taco in their hands.
Yeah, I used to do
They
that.
eat the thing in like 3 bites, and they don't even bother when they come in. They get a pitcher of beer, right? They don't even get a mug because the pitcher looks like a mug in their hand. These people are huge.
Back when I played, we would come off the field. They usually had a spread for us. And you have not seen
like
eating.
Hummus?
No, like Subway subs, that kind of stuff. You have not seen people eat until you've seen a football team come off of
training. Oh my God!
The second practice of a day at 95 degrees, when you've lost 10 pounds of water weight, we would just demolish the food. But I always use Tom Brady because people know who he is. But you could really sub in almost any professional athlete, like you said, football player, basketball players. Shaquille O'Neal. Everybody knows who Shaquille O'Neal is, right?
That dude is massive.
He had 3% body fat when he played. Morbidly obese, according to BMI.
Now, what's interesting is if you see him standing without anybody around him, he looks like a normal human being. It's when you put another normal human being next to him, you realize the freak that he is.
He is a freak of nature, yes. And God bless him. I love the guy.
Oh, man, phenomenal player, fantastic human being, but his body was like... What?
It was chiseled back then. So, when he was at his playing, I believe it was 303 pounds is what he played at. At 7'1", I think he is 7'7".
And he's running that court back and forth for 2 hours nonstop. Good.
Yeah. You wouldn't say he's out of shape or obese or any of that, but yet according to BMI, he's off the charts obese. Even taking into account the fact that he is 7 feet tall. Because of the way the formula works. What really you want to assess for that, and again, one thing I think people get too hyped on is the specifics of the numbers. Generally speaking, though, it's your body fat. If your body fat is below or at the average norm, where the norm should be, and like I said, I primarily work with people over 50, so I'll use 50. You want to be, for the ladies, 25 to 30. That's an average person. Is that going to make you ripped? No. But you're going to be in shape, generally. A male, if you can get to 20, that's a good number to shoot for. But again, I know people at 25% that are absolutely ripped, and I know people at 15%. I know people at 5% that couldn't lift the barbell off their chest if they had to. So
I can make money as a spotter.
Yeah. I always tell the story about my wife. She's going to kill me now. So been nice knowing you after this.
Just leave me that double neck guitar, right? Put that in your will real quick before you start the story.
When we first met, our second or third date, we actually went to the gym to work out together because we both like to work out.
Whoa.
Now, my wife, when I met her, was ripped. Like she could stop traffic. That ripped. Well, I said, okay, well, what do you want to do? You decide, because that's her thing. Whatever she wants, I want, that's what we're going to do. So I said, let's go bench press. So I go over bench press. Now, mind you, she's ripped. I'm like, all right, well, I don't want to insult her. I'll start out with maybe 95 pounds. And she goes, well, we'll see. Let me warm up first. Well, but she warmed up with just the barbell, 45 pounds. She couldn't get it off her chest. No strength whatsoever. She was a runner primarily at that time. She's a former gymnast, but she had no upper body strength. So it's all, what I always tell people is don't focus so much on numbers. Look at the overall, right? Body fat, though, is a big one. I mean, your health is largely determined by the amount of body fat you carry. The data is beyond proven. But generally speaking, I've seen many, many people high body fats who are in phenomenal shape. I would consider myself that. I mean, relatively speaking, my body fat is pretty high, but I also am trying to compete in things like powerlifting and stuff like that. Weight matters, as you mentioned when we first came on, where, you know,
you're not going to tackle a refrigerator in my shape.
Yeah. You know, and that's where you would be considered a lightweight. I would be considered most meets either a heavyweight or super heavyweight, because we can push more pounds, so to speak. But so many people get hung up, doctors especially, on that BMI. Oh my God, it drives me nuts because it's BS. And you can skew it so easily. Just drink a bunch of water before they test you. And then people will use things like their scale to get their BMI. I've done an experiment in the past where I had 5 people bring in 5 scales, their scale, personal scale, into our studio, plus ours. So we had 6 different scales, and I think I had 6 of us plus me doing it. We got different weights for every single person on every scale and different body BMIs. So it's, again,
well, that's why they did. That explains the tank that we used in high school.
Well,
right.
Yeah, now they call them bod pods. So I've done that.
Sorry?
Bod pod. So it's like a big egg, basically. And you climb in it, and they fill it with water, and they see how much water. I'm glad I
graduated when I did.
Yeah, you can. I don't know about here in the Cape Fear area or southeast.
We just throw you in the river.
Yeah, that'll work, or the ocean. Although that's got salt, that's going to skew
yeah,
it.
that's well, and you can't be brackish.
But a lot of colleges have it. There was a college up north I was able to go to. It cost me $50, and that is as accurate a body fat as you can get. But the funny thing is I had brought my scale. I also brought a tool that Lori and I have at the studio that tracks body fat. That particular piece of equipment was within 0.2 of the bod pod. The scale was way off. It was like 2-3% different. So it's all relative. The way I look at it is this way. If you have a scale, use it, stick with that one, and whatever happens on it, if it goes up, goes down, there's your basis. But
right, if your clock is wrong, it's wrong all the time, and you know it, and you can compensate. Now, one last thing before we hit the break, and I wanted to see if this was an important issue that you have addressed or is something that's a subject in your fitness regime, that when people are looking to lose weight and they have an excessive amount of actual liquid, that soft fat, the soft tissue fat.
Yep.
One of the things that fat tissue does is it takes things in that it doesn't recognize. Right? So if you're drinking hydrolyzed bromide or whatever, and the body doesn't know what to do with it, the intestines don't know what to do with it, fat rolls it up and says, I'm going to hang on to this later.
It can. Toxins, we'll call it, body toxins.
Yeah, and then as they start losing weight, suddenly all these toxins are starting to flood the body, some of which may have chemical reactions causing flashbacks or hallucination, different psychoactive results from that. Have you experienced it? And if you have, was there a way of sort of guiding the person through it so they're not like, oh my God, the bombs are falling in Vietnam?
I have not personally experienced it, and I'll tell you why I probably haven't, and it's the answer to your question about basically what to do, is I drink a ton of water. So what you want is, you want to flush the body. So people talk about like juice cleanses and that stuff. It's literal crap. Literally and figuratively, that stuff is crap, right? Huh. You don't have 20 pounds of residue, there's a good term, in your colon, okay?
You can find that out by eating a salad.
Yeah, instead of a juice cleanse, my advice to people is spend $3 on a bottle of Miralax. You'll get the exact same effect. Don't do that, by the way. Disclaimer. I am not giving medical advice here. I'm just using it as an example. That was actually told to me by a doctor, and I about fell off the table. I was getting my physical, and she came out with that one, and I about fell off the table. I said, I'm using that. She goes, go right ahead. But you do, if no matter what, whether you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, general life, you should be drinking and the guideline varies, but roughly half your body weight in ounces of water. I always say non-caffeinated drinks. So, for example, my coffee here, that don't count. All right. Yeah, but I drink about a gallon of water a day.
Well, there's how many ounces in a gallon? I don't do that conversion.
128. And
that's not quite half your body weight.
Not quite, but that for me, that's about what works.
Now, what's interesting...
So again, that's why it's a loose guideline, because in theory, I should probably be around 130 to 140 ounces. I'm not that far off, right? But I generally about a gallon, and mine is unsweetened and caffeine-free iced tea. I drink a lot of that. I do the flavored waters, just check to make sure there's not sodium in them. But if you flush the body and keep it hydrated, that could be a whole other topic for us down the road, hydration, especially in this heat. If you do that, you're going to flush out the quote-unquote toxins. Not to mention, you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. One of the biggest issues people have is they are dehydrated generally. And there's a host of health issues. Let's save that one for next week, though.
Okay. And we are going to take a break. I'm hoping you'll stay with me here because I'm going to bring in our other co-host from your show. What was it called? All Things Brunswick that y'all did last night. It was phenomenal. I have no idea what you were talking about. But,
I got multiple shows.
You're becoming a media superstar here in the Eastern North Carolina. My goodness, I'm just cranking out rock stars left and right.
You are making me the man.
So with that in mind, I'm going to find me some fun music like this one. Oh, look at that. Well, wrong button. And with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back after these messages. Please visit the Big Talker website, bigtalker.live, during the break. Peruse our schedule of content, download the app for Android, iOS devices, and of course, hop on the chat, participate. This next section is going to be lit. You're tuned in to the Big Talker Network, Wilmington, North Carolina's premier internet station for news and talk radio programming. Find us online at bigtalker.live.
Dad! Come on! Over here! Look at this, Dad! Over! Whoa.
The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
you can't even see the top of that thing!
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go, like hiking, biking, fishing, or camping. Or do your own thing when you get there with family and friends. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org. That's discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. We begin with the arrest in a cold case nearly 30 years old. DNA has linked a man in prison since 1997 to a 1995 rape, according to the Wilmington Police Department. Police say a recently processed DNA rape kit led to 55-year-old Freddie Anthony Jackson. Jackson has been in prison since 1997 for first-degree kidnapping, robbery with a dangerous weapon, larceny, and other charges. Jackson's new charges include first-degree rape, first-degree kidnapping, and first-degree sexual offense. We'll bring you more information when it becomes available. The Columbus County Sheriff's Office arrested and charged a man with assault with a deadly weapon and assault inflicting serious injury. An arrest warrant accuses 39-year-old Brent Stephen Freshy of stabbing a man in the stomach and hitting him with a baseball bat. The victim had to be taken to New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Freshy was booked Monday night and given a $75,000 secured bond. And the Pender County Board of Education has voted to change the name of Topsail Elementary School. A group has been advocating to change the name to Annandale School. Originally known as Annandale, the school was built in the 1950s as an equalization school for black students. The school's name was changed to Topsail Elementary in the late 60s. The school board voted unanimously to change the name to Topsail Annandale Elementary. A Brunswick County beach town is gradually adding elements to its beach to keep people safe in the water. The town of Oak Island has started displaying 3-foot-wide signs on the Beach Service Unit UTVs to inform beachgoers of risks of what color flag is displayed. While there are beach warning flags at every access on the beach, some people might not notice them. With there being no lifeguards on the beach, the signs help alert people on the beach of risks in the water. For more on these stories, you can head on over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Another hot one on our hands as we go throughout the day today. Inland communities will climb into the middle 90s later this afternoon, upper 80s to near 90 along the coast. And if you're headed out to the beaches on this Wednesday, moderate risk for rip currents and a chance for scattered showers in the afternoon hours today. As we head towards the overnight hours tonight, temperatures will fall down into the middle and the upper 70s to near 80 degrees along the coast, with quiet conditions sticking around. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
Folks, you must visit Angie's Fresh Produce. 4447 Long Beach Road, Southport. Beautiful fresh produce at a great price. Angie's has just about every vegetable you want. In-store shopping and pickup, and all wheelchair accessible. Call Angie's Fresh Produce at 910-477-9068.
Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want by asking for Big Talker.
Get all your sports action with Tanner Barth on WWAY.
Let's get things started with our full court press matchup of the week.
From the full court press to the fifth quarter and everything in between.
And they say if some is good, more is better this time.
We've got your sports world covered all around the Cape Fear.
Check out the save from the captain. Full extension.
This is the place for your sports coverage. WWAY.
Ladies and gentlemen, as promised, this show about to get lit for the next half hour because I got not one, I got two of those crazy folk from, where were we last night? Bolivia? Bolivia. Yeah,
Not
that's right.
country.
Dan Romand and Bill Moore. And I think the subject they wanted to cover was Trump's neighborly visit.
Neighborly visit.
Yeah, we were just checking. It's like a wellness check. We just want to make sure that you still can read. You still got books.
He had just had 30 friends over to help clean up your house.
Chad did come at me with that. It's like, you don't need a bunch of FBI agents to come. Dude, they're not searching a 2-bedroom condo. They're searching like a 15-acre compound. It's going to take more than 2 or 3 guys.
Yeah, but they sent the same amount to get the guy that runs Project Veritas, which he lives in an apartment in New York City, which if you've ever been there, you know the apartments are about the size of my closet.
That must have been real fun. Now, I guess what they're trying to do there is like every state gets 2 senators, so everybody on our investigation gets the same number of FBI agents.
The same number of corrupt FBI agents.
Yeah, there you go. Well, remember the noose? Remember the NASCAR noose? What's his name? Bubba Watson?
Yep.
Or whatever his name was?
We love looking at stuff too close.
They sent 30 guys for that.
Because somebody was bored and made it into a fancy noose that is actually in the handbook for the Boy Scouts.
It's actually what NASCAR has used for decades to hold the garage door.
So until it shows up on a church door, relax. So yeah,
it was a nice gathering they had yesterday.
Now, was this would you consider this a raid or is this serving a warrant?
It was not serving anything because if it was served by a warrant, someone would call up in with a subpoena or a warrant and say, "Please come with us." They broke in legally because they found somebody some judge that would back them up and go in there. And what they were trying to do was intimidate. And I will tell you this, based on the record the FBI has developed in the last couple of years, I would not put it past them since they took these boxes out with no one paying attention what they took, I would not put it past them to plant something in there as they find something that'll end up working on the January 6th commission.
You mean Like a chicken wing? They're going to plant like a chicken wing or a couple of hamburgers in there?
Well, he likes Big Macs, so he could have planted a Big Mac in there, I guess. But, Bill's point is spot on. We don't know what was taken. We don't know what was in those boxes because Trump's lawyers weren't there. Which is in and of itself an issue. And let's take Trump out of this. Let's just say it's an average person and they did this. Again, the same things to me apply, right? I get the whole Trump thing. That's driving emotion behind this. But when you step back and take that out of it and look at this, there's a lot of questionable stuff going on here. And
you mean like Breonna Taylor?
Yeah.
Now, that was a SWAT. That was not FBI. But the same behavior kicked in the door and just started blasting.
Well, to be fair, they got shot at too, but I get your point. When I look at this whole scenario, and it's not something I don't think a lot of people realize, and we kind of touched on this on the show last night. By the way, people, All Things Brunswick, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Bill and I are the hosts, along with the wonderful Mary, who's away right now. How's that plug, Bill?
She's still looking for power for her windmills in Maine.
But, we kind of touched on the show this is an ongoing pattern. We're seeing them raid places. I mentioned Project Veritas. There's been other people. Giuliani's another one. They've weaponized the DOJ. And there is no oversight. And let's be fair. Something I was talking about with someone last night.
Wait a minute. I don't know if that's entirely accurate. The FBI is under the purview of DOJ, correct? The FBI does not behave and act on their own accord. They have to have approvals and permissions and whatever the documents are necessary to allow them to do their work, right?
Let's change one word. You say have to. I would say they're supposed to, but who knows if they actually do. Think about the history of the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover's well known for what he did. The DOJ had no.
Well, he cleaned up our streets, boys and girls.
He sure did. He violated a few laws doing it too, but
what's that matter?
I look at, to your point though, with the DOJ is who's reining them in? Who's supposed to be reining them in? The Biden administration and Congress. They're all for this.
If Biden is to be believed, which I doubt, but he claims he had no knowledge of this. This was done strictly by the FBI lead and the Attorney General for the country. So if that's the case, the question I still ask is, how come these problems only exist on one side of the political house? On the other side of the political house, you have Hunter Biden's laptop, which no one's found a problem with. No one had a problem with Hillary losing 33,000 emails. That wasn't seem to be a problem. No one had a real problem when Mr. Berger went into the records and loaded in his pants and his socks and his underwear secret documents, classified documents, snuck them out of the archives and got caught. And what happened to him? He lost his secret clearance for 3 years, and they fined him $10,000 because, quote, he was sloppy putting back the stuff, end quote. When was the last time you went and looked at records and you filed them back in your underpants?
I can't say
There's a lot of things I filed in my underpants, one of which was actually a Christmas ham from the grocery store. I was like 7 or 8 years old at the time and just being a jerk. But yeah, I get your point. I don't do it often. I did it once. I was a child.
I might have done it with alcohol in my teens, but that's about it, right?
Taking the, as Dan said, take the Trump out of it and look at what happened. And it's frightening because this is a banana republic operation where the leadership can go after anybody they want. And if they can go after a man as powerful as Trump, what are they going to do to you and I? I mean, they just hired another 88,000 IRS agents to look at records of people under $200,000
and gave them really big guns.
Yep.
Yeah.
The issue here is they're going to use the IRS as a weapon with threats.
This,
if
like the revenuers,
you're going to find yourself under, what it's. And if you don't believe that was going on, go to 2010 when all the conservative groups had trouble with the IRS during that election, and they admitted afterwards and apologized that they did it. Big deal. So this is not something new.
Now, does this harken back to the revenuers days? Because those guys were given machine guns and basically carte blanche to just mow down anybody that had liquor.
We're reaching the point where
they showed up at the mansion, armed to the teeth. They showed up, I forget Peter's last name, but he was getting on a plane. He'd been cooperating with them, and they arrested him in the airport. An average middle-class guy working for the government, was not a macho man because he never went to Dan's shop and worked out. He was just an average guy. And they took him off in handcuffs and shackles at the airport.
And perp walked them when they have no reason to be doing it.
Well, if you're a criminal, and you're being arrested, that's the perp walk. I mean, there's no way around it. Even if you are erroneously arrested because all charges, you're innocent until proven guilty, but even if you're arrested prior to indictment, that perp walk is unavoidable.
I'm not talking about cuffs. I'm talking about shackles.
Right, that's still unavoidable. And certainly if they feel in any way, shape, or form that you are a flight risk or an assault risk, they will button you down.
Here's where I'll disagree with you, TK.
Yeah?
Look at all the arrests that happened in Portland when they were burning down buildings there. They didn't get perp walked. They got asked to just get in the car.
Well, yeah,
so
that was their perp walk.
I get your point. I see your point, but I'm going to counter it with that. It's, again, to Bill's point, where one side is treated one way and the other side is treated another. And what's interesting, I don't know if either of you saw Marco Rubio talking on the news. I saw it this morning. He's out of, I believe, the Miami area. He's a senator from Florida. He was talking about how the Hispanic vote is going to be very interesting now because they're looking at what happened. Again, taking Trump out of it, they're like, this is what happens in third world countries that we came from, that we tried to escape from. Banana Republic, if you will. I'm not a big fan of that term, but you look at what happened in, say, Nicaragua, Venezuela, that's where, they've come from those areas, Cuba, and now they're living in the United States because they wanted to escape it. And now they're seeing this happen. His point was quite valid that this could really blow up on the Democrats.
And the other side of that coin is the similar thing is being seen in the black community. Because again, if you can go after someone at that level, they in their minds, they have experienced and their families have experienced a lot of that in the past, and they don't want to see it coming back again. So that's frightening a lot of minority communities. That, again, an unintended consequence that the Democrats need to face.
Huh. So this is not just it seems like we're importing this. Like, we imported Guzman. We imported a lot of criminals from other countries that we, chased down, convicted, brought to America, tried them, threw them into prison. And it seems like everything else came with them. Shouldn't we have just left him there? Like, could we not have just buried Guzman in the desert of Mexico somewhere, and that entire thing would have just gone away?
I don't know that we've imported it.
We've
I'm not
disappeared a whole lot of people before. Why are we not doing it now?
I think, though, what you're seeing more, though, than you're saying, importing it from other areas, I think it's more they're just running the socialist/communist playbook. If you go back, and for that matter, if you look at, I'm going to use the word, Mein Kampf, the playbook was there. That playbook is being run right now. This isn't the first time it's happened. This has happened throughout human history, where they have a certain playbook. They're running it masterfully, I might add. Credit where credit's due. They've got it down. And we're starting to see the culmination of it all. The difference, I think, is that our country is unique in the world, and our people are unique in the world. And I don't know that we're going to lay back like they think we're going to.
Okay. Now, sorry, Bill, go ahead.
I agree 100%. You look at, and that's one of the big things about the Second Amendment. And people need to remember that all those amendments and the Constitution was written to protect us from government. It was not from each other. It was from government. And, you look at World War II and the Japanese, and one of the reasons the Japanese stated they'd never invaded on the California side and decided to fight their way across the country is because they guesstimated there were 680 or 90,000 armed civilians between California and Washington, and they would have to face them all coming across, and they didn't think it would work. So that's the advantage of an armed populace. again, from protection from the government. And it starts in our own Declaration of Independence.
And they don't realize that there was a whole lot of MacGyvers between California and New York. Because think about it, out in the desert, we are bored. And we have lots of times on our hands to find ways to mess up your life. We dig trenches that will kill a tank in a heartbeat, right? So I would have, had I been, I don't know. Some of the engineering during that time was just mind-bending. And it's like, man, like the flamethrower, for example. At no time in my life until the divorce did I think a flamethrower was a good idea. During the divorce, I realized that there is a desire to set a person on fire from a long distance away. Because if you think about it, the flamethrower is one of the most heinous tools ever created to kill another human being. But man, it's glorious. I'm sorry.
I might argue it's the most heinous because at least with a nuke, you disappear. You know, it's over
vaporize. You are returned to your atomic elements.
And it's. You got me laughing thinking about that. Like, wow, that's a good point. But yeah, I mean, you look at where we're at. Like Bill brings up the Second Amendment. That's why they want to do away with it, because their only chance to actually take the country at this point is to overcome that. Let's all hope we never get to the point where it becomes a shooting war, but we are already in a civil war. I brought this up on the show last night, and I talk about it often because I don't think people realize we're in one right now. It's just fourth and fifth generational. It's not shooting, it's the hearts and minds, to use the Vietnam term.
But we're getting closer.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? It doesn't seem like they know when to stop or pull back quite enough. And it may, the water may go over the dam. And unfortunately, I think it's going to happen. I don't think it'll be this year or even next. I think it's going to happen in 2024, depending on how it goes. If Trump were to become president again, this country's finished.
You think?
If the Democrats thought they did something with this raid, I think what they have done is they have made up Trump's mind about running. Because I truly believe he was 50, and he may not have run, but after this, it's personal.
That's why I put on the little deal. Is this payback or is this prescient? All right. One more pivot, because we got about 15 minutes left. I want to ask you guys if you've encountered this wonderful human being, right-wing voice and advocate, Mr. Sean Whalen. Sean Whalen, who runs the company Lions Not Sheep, had been selling Made in America products where he was actually buying Chinese products, ripping out the tag, sewing in a tag that said Made in America, and then reselling them as American products, was busted by the Federal Trade Commission and has been ordered to pay over $115,000 in fines. Now, as much as I want to promote conservative ideology, things like this do not help that argument. How do you guys navigate this type of thing? I mean, it could be wrapped up and used as an attack to say, this is what the Republicans are doing. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there are people like Sean Whalen that are using a Trump flag to promote their own business, but their own business is shady enough that they are committing the very crimes that they are mad at everybody else about.
Well, there are good and bad on both sides, and that's the truth.
Yes.
And,
whether they're elected or not.
To counter that is in our county. I was debating on writing a letter to the local paper because one of the candidate we have running on the Democratic side for our representative of the General Assembly is a retired full colonel, or Democrat. And he put out this letter last week because the Republicans initially took down the veterans bill because there were issues in it that they had fixed and they passed it, or they all passed it. He put out this letter, Republicans hate veterans. And it went on for like 600 or 700 words, how we say we like the veterans, but in fact, we hate them all and we want them all basically to die.
And that was only in response to the recent burn pit legislation package thing that went weird.
Yeah, and again, but the reality was, if you looked, at the package, and there was another station who, when that person on the air addressed the issue, he went he went absolutely ape on Republicans again. And I had a chance to meet him a few hours later in a store. And I said to him, here's what's really happened. Research it. He then researched it the next day and came back on his show and apologized and sent me a note saying that thanking me for it. Though admittedly, he did not give me credit. He said it was people calling in and telling him, which I doubt. I know it.
Funny how that one worked, huh?
Right. So, is there a way to sort of clean up the message on either of these sides? Is there any middle ground? Because it seems the more rhetoric flying around, the less of it is central solutions. It's all extreme yelling and rock throwing.
I will give my opinion, and before then I'll let Bill talk. But I'm a little probably more pessimistic maybe than Bill is on this. My opinion is there is nothing we can do at this point. The cat is out of the bag. We have become a tribal society. It's us against you, us and them.
Red and blue.
There's no middle ground anywhere by anyone at this point that I see.
So we've gone from blue and gray to red and blue.
Yeah, exactly. Big cities against the country people. There's different
Black
ways. Black
versus white, or minority versus white.
It's
educated versus uneducated. Politicos versus laymen.
It's always labels, right? They find a label to attach to a group, and it's that group is bad. And this, by the way, this is both sides.
Right. Everybody's calling everybody names, not referring to them by their title.
And there's absolutely no middle ground anywhere. And in fact, when you do find common ground, what happens is both sides jump on it and say, this is a disaster. And using the bill that you guys were just talking about, the veterans bill, now it didn't go through the first time, went through the second time. The differences were legitimate, that they came to a compromise, right?
Isn't that the goal?
People on both sides poo-poo it because they compromised on it. And it's like, that bill is pretty solid from what my personal perspective is. But it took some compromise. And that the fact that they compromised, I hear it more from the left, how dare we? But I do hear it from the right also, if I'm being fair. And there are extremists on both sides. And unfortunately, they're the ones that are driving the narrative right now. Whereas I think, I'm going to be fair to the three of us. We may have differences in opinion on things, but we're kind of in the middle in the sense that we are willing to hear the other side, agree to disagree.
I'm more interested in policy results than I am in personalities and shaming and naming. And I have fun with name calling as much as the next guy, but it's not helping.
I mean, Bill's ancient enough. You know, he remembers when Bills came out on stone tablets.
Carried down on the mountainside in sandals.
Yeah, I'm a little younger than that, but there used to be compromise.
Wasn't that and they took missiles?
Wait, you're going to have to wheel that up. Your internet got a little weird.
Yeah.
I said, wasn't it at the time when they picked up trainers, they used their heads as chisels when they made those rock notices? Yeah, but that's the way. But anyway, Dan said is absolutely correct. However, one slide to it, you want to change things. There's two ways of changing it. First thing to do is somehow, and I don't know it's ever possible, the media has to go back to center. You know,
that ain't happening.
Well, that's hard to do when we're trying to sell stuff.
What's going on? That's going to change a lot of things. And fairly labeled shows, you know, if everyone's entitled to commentary shows, you know, Sean Hannity's a commentary show, is not a news show. But if you're labeling news shows as commentary shows as news, you are then having people convinced that's exactly what's going on. So step one is to somehow get the media to go back to center. It could be center left, center right, but at least based in the center.
Have some sanity.
That would be nice.
So Fox News, the entire channel, should change its names to Fox Opinionations. And then maybe have a Fox News channel where you have actual news anchors like Dan Rather and... Never mind.
But even they can't be trusted at this point. I mean, I see...
That's the hard part. Everybody's credibility has been zapped.
It's shot.
Yeah.
I mean, Congress has more respectability than the media does.
Walter Cronkite was the ultimate newscaster, yet he was liberalistic. He was center left. But you didn't know it in his reports. He played it down. And that we need to get back to again. And the second thing we need to get back to again is accepting basic moral standards for everybody, religion, if you want to say it, but go back to the fact that we still are brothers keepers, and we need to work with each other and not just wipe each other out. And
that's an interesting subject that I had with a temporary host we had who was trying to claim that we are a Christian nation.
We are a Judeo-Christian nation. That's correct.
In general, I think we are.
So all the other religions are illegal, outlawed, less than.
No. See, that's where we're different, TK. So I would make the argument we are a Judeo-Christian nation in the sense that we have a set of guidelines and morals that align with that. That does not mean we don't welcome other religions. And if you actually look at other religions,
that we have to use religion as a basis for our morality.
No, but what we're saying is, TK, the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, all have bases that can be traced back to the Judeo-Christian beliefs, and that's a fact. And that can be done in their books and books out there that do that. In our Constitution and our beliefs, we will honor other religions. We will not pick on them, but our principles that we run our country on are based on the coming out of that Judeo-Christian thing, as the Christian religion is based on Judea in many places.
So what about the separation of church and state? That's just a farce?
No, not at all.
So there should be a separation of reason from religion.
Based on your argument, TK, you would then say that murder should be legal because that's a Judeo-Christian belief.
Oh, yeah, and it's been around for thousands of years. Cain, Abel.
Thou shalt not kill, right?
Cain and Abel.
Straight in the Bible. Now, I'm not a
but it's also in every other religious text of the non-extremist types. They all say that life is precious.
I agree.
The Jewish, the Muslims, the Taoists, the Buddhists, all of them have that same tenet.
But if you're going to make the argument of separation of religion from state and apply it to all religions, you could take out Judeo-Christian, insert Islam,
or
shall not kill,
or Cthulhu,
and have the exact same result. But no one will slam Islam for that.
What you're looking at is when you go back to what the founders were doing, when they put in that, you will not, freedom of religion, they're basically talking about the fact that in the English, where they were related back to, you had the Church of England, which was under the king's control, and that's a reality. So they were making sure that the religion could not be tied to the government. That's all that meant.
That's what I was getting to, is I wanted somebody to point that out, because very few people have read enough of the Constitution, if they've read it at all, to understand that the separation of church and state is only in the establishment of a state-sponsored or state-functioned church.
Correct.
That's the only separation of church and state. Now, recently, a number of PACs, political action committees, have redesignated themselves as churches. Were you aware of this?
I'm going to be honest and say I was not.
Oh, yeah. I'm trying to find my copy of the story in it, but yes, there's been a number of issues where churches have been registering with the IRS a number of PACs have registered with the IRS as churches. Not only to maintain their tax-exempt status, but to also retain extra because they are considered a religion and they're exempt from financial disclosures and other oversights.
Well, the other side to that coin is also the IRS has, and especially in Texas and areas in that area there, that they've gone after churches and basically told them that if you do any preaching that sounds political, you lose your tax exempt status. And if you're out there and you're anti-abortion, whatever side you're on it, I'm not talking about right now, but if you're preaching anti-abortion, according to the IRS, they can come after your income tax, your exemption because you're doing politics, not what your church tenets are. And that's an issue.
That's fair. Don't you think? Because the church is supposed that they lose their tax-exempt church status if they're pontificating political action. Because then you are a politically active environment.
If you preach against murder, does that mean you should lose it because the government says that we can kill people?
Nope, it's right there in the Bible. Thou shalt not kill. And the act of murder is obviously a selfish and self-indulgent behavior. Again, the religion, the churches are supposed to behave or respond to spiritual crisis, not political crisis. So if they have anything to say about abortion, it had better stay within their religious realm to stay in their lane.
But what you're now saying, TK, is if a church, for example, comes out and says we are against murder and we're against killing people, convicts, whatever else, and the government can now turn around and say, oh, you're getting political again, you lost your tax exemption.
I guess there does need to be another qualifier. For example, if they said you should vote for this guy because he's anti-abortion, now you've seriously crossed the line that is easily identifiable, because now you have actually supported, or what's the thing when the fat guy puts his name behind somebody? Endorsement. So if the church endorses a candidate, they've crossed over the line and become political, correct?
I agree to that.
So
However,
they should lose their tax-exempt status.
And I will tell you an example. What happens, for example, if a church simply decides that week after week they're going to explain the basic tenets of the church, and those tenets tend to fall on one side or the other of the political realm? Yeah, are they endorsing, or are they just explaining to their people, this is what we believe in?
That's why you need people with an English degree to parse this, right? So that we can understand where that line is, just like they should be more accessible with YouTube, so that we don't get banned by a bot just by hearing a word in a sentence. There should be some context, some parsing. And I agree that there's going to be caveats, there's going to be challenges in there. But hopefully we can at least have that discussion without saying, well, my God's better than your God.
Well, that's the problem. We can't have that discussion, right? We're at a point that
the three of us can.
We can, and we can honestly disagree in a lot of manners. And I think
because our morality is still in line, pretty much in accord with each other.
That's what I was going to say. The three of us are pretty much in alignment, though, and in agreement on a lot of things. We have the majority of it. I think we're the three of us, and we have different philosophies, but we're pretty much, we all know that killing is bad, for example. Stealing is bad, whatever you want to use. And we can have an honest discussion. The problem now is, and it's driven primarily by social media. You mentioned YouTube, but Facebook, Twitter, all of them, those algorithms. We haven't been
banned there yet.
Yeah, all of those social medias are driven by one thing. They want to keep you on that platform, and the way they're going to do that is telling you what you want to hear, and it creates echo chambers. And then you become so isolated. I've even fallen into this at times. You become so isolated, you don't see the other side, which is why I purposely will go watch MSNBC. I know it's crap, but I want to know what they're saying, because I need to hear that side as much as I might disagree with it, because there have been times I went, oh, wait a minute. You know, that's not a bad point they're making there. But I think we've lost that ability as a society in general, and that's why we're at where we're at.
And unfortunately, we are at the end of the time. Yeah, we are.
I love this conversation.
We may have to do this again, kids.
I'm all for it.
Anytime.
All right.
I have no problem, agreeing when Dan is wrong. They're there for that all the time.
Hey, TK, before you go, let me remind the viewers and the listeners that our show, The Living Fit After 50, is Fridays at 1, plus other replays. I do want to get a little promo in for that, if you'll allow me to.
Not at all. Yeah, please.
We have a awesome producer, by the way, who helps us out with that. He's a really good guy. His name is TK.
Oh, I thought it was
hey,
Lori.
Bill, maybe we'll have you on as a guest at some point.
Well, that's fine.
You'll be one of it. You're the success story.
Yeah, we have a really good guest this week. Art McDermott's coming on. He's an author. He wrote The Red Wine Diet. The ladies love that one. And he's the owner and founder of the Successful Aging Academy. So we're going to be interviewing him. And then the week after that, we have Greg Justice, who's a member of the Training Hall of Fame, Fitness Hall of Fame. And he's going to be talking about a book he wrote on Jack LaLanne and some other things. So really good stuff coming up.
Nice. I'm looking forward to that. So
before
kids,
I go,
sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, before I go, All Things Brunswick next week has a very special guest that my partner there is going to send the information on, so I can broadcast.
Yeah, well, that's his subtle way of reminding me. You're second on my list, Bill. TK's first. I got to get in my show notes for Friday.
Boy, I feel special this morning. Especially after yesterday getting roasted for my morning show. I'm feeling a little more, accepted this morning.
TK, Did he just tell me I'm number 2?
Yep.
You are number 2, Bill, and soon to be number 3.
And I think it's based on hair length.
All right, then my closing number will be Wipeout.
I gave you Hail to the Chief last night. That's about as close as I can get. With that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this break with Dr. Larry Cahoon from Cape Fear Riverwatch. He's going to go, well, I have a question for him, and I think he has great information. The man has more PhDs than I'll ever have, so let's just start there and know that the guy is super smart and can answer questions that a moron like me is going to have. So don't go nowhere. We'll be right back on the Big Talker.
Hello, I'm Matt Bennett with WWAY News. We begin with the arrest in a cold case nearly 30 years old. DNA has linked a man in prison since 1997 to a 1995 rape, according to the Wilmington Police Department. Police say a recently processed DNA rape kit led to 55-year-old Freddie Anthony Jackson. Jackson has been in prison since 1997 for first-degree kidnapping, robbery with a dangerous weapon, larceny, and other charges. Jackson's new charges include first-degree rape, first-degree kidnapping, and first-degree sexual offense. We'll bring you more information when it becomes available. The Columbus County Sheriff's Office arrested and charged a man with assault with a deadly weapon and assault inflicting serious injury. An arrest warrant accuses 39-year-old Brent Stephen Freshy of stabbing a man in the stomach and hitting him with a baseball bat. The victim had to be taken to New Hanover Regional Medical Center. Freshy was booked Monday night and given a $75,000 secured bond. And the Pender County Board of Education has voted to change the name of Topsail Elementary School. A group has been advocating to change the name to Annandale School. Originally known as Annandale, the school was built in the 1950s as an equalization school for black students. The school's name was changed to Topsail Elementary in the late 60s. The school board voted unanimously to change the name to Topsail Annandale Elementary. A Brunswick County beach town is gradually adding elements to its beach to keep people safe in the water. The town of Oak Island has started displaying 3-foot-wide signs on the Beach Service Unit UTVs to inform beachgoers of risks of what color flag is displayed. While there are beach warning flags at every access on the beach, some people might not notice them. With there being no lifeguards on the beach, the signs help alert people on the beach of risks in the water. For more on these stories, you can head on over to WWAYTV3.com. I'm Matt Bennett. Have a great day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm WWAY meteorologist Ramel Carpenter with your Storm Track 3 forecast. Another hot one on our hands as we go throughout the day today. Inland communities will climb into the middle 90s later this afternoon, upper 80s to near 90 along the coast. And if you're headed out to the beaches on this Wednesday, moderate risk for rip currents and a chance for scattered showers in the afternoon hours today. As we head towards the overnight hours tonight, temperatures will fall down into the middle and the upper 70s to near 80 degrees along the coast, with quiet conditions sticking around. Get your full forecast on WWAY and WWAYTV3.com.
This news and weather is brought to you by Two Men and a Truck. For your free quote, go to twomenandatruck.com. twomenandatruck.com.
If you're enjoying the content you find on Big Talker, any of your shows, all the hosts, you really need to make sure you're following and liking us on Facebook. There's a video section. You can watch all the live video of programs as they happen. You can also see video of past content that you may have missed for whatever reason. Plus, even better, you can share it with a friend. Let other people know how much you enjoy the Big Talker and the great content we provide, and interact with other listeners and the hosts in the comment section live as it happens. Big Talker Net on Facebook. Enjoying Big Talker Network is as easy as asking for it. Program your digital home assistants such as Google Home, Alexa, and Siri to stream Big Talker Network content by simple voice command. Enjoy convenient hands-free access to program whenever you want, however you want, by asking for Big Talker.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the Lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Hey, welcome back to the Asylum right here on the Big Talker Network. BigTalker.live is the website. If you visit it, you can peruse these. If you don't visit it, you can't do any of this, but you can peruse the schedule of content to find your favorite program. You can download the app for the Android and iOS devices, which puts all of our programming available right there at your fingertips. As well as, what are some of the other things we do? Oh, you can send an email with any compliments, questions, critiques, questions, comments you may have, and, that helps us grow as a station and be more responsive to you. And as such, we have a guest on this morning that is one of the smartest people I know in the area. He has more PhDs than I have bicycle spokes. So, one of the stories that came up today, and I was very excited about it, blasted away on it this morning. Good morning, sir, by the way. Sorry, before I started, going at it full speed. In the Kirtland Air Force Base, where my stepfather worked, they created what was called the Solar Power Tower, which was a bunch of mirrors arranged in a computerized concave mirror to focus the sunlight onto a cauldron to boil water to turn into steam to push the paddles that turns the magnet inside the coil of wire. Voila, we have electricity. Problem was, the sunlight was so powerful, it melted through 2 and 3 inch plates of steel in seconds.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to boil water. I mean, you can boil water on a campfire in a paper cup. It is possible. I've done it.
Yeah.
But you cannot boil water in a metal cauldron that has a massive 3-foot hole burned through the side. So Germany, this guy in Germany, Aldo Steinfeld, and I mean, this is like straight out of Asimov, man. I'm not kidding.
Mm-hmm.
The man has found a way to turn ambient air through the use of solar power to turn ambient air into aircraft kerosene. It's a 2.5 step process. The first process splits up the items in the ambient air into CO and H2, carbon monoxide and hydrogen. And that gas, what they call it syngas, is then distilled as you would any other gas under pressure and such to turn it into liquid kerosene that can be dumped and delivered through the same infrastructure we already have to start flying aircraft.
Cool.
One tower can generate like 3 million gallons?
That would be useful. Let me correct one thing. I only have one PhD.
Oh,
one
I'm
was
sorry.
enough.
When I see the thing, you have so many different, like limnologists, marine biologists. I thought all of them came with doctorates.
Yeah. Most of us who've gone through graduate school, by the time we're done, we're done.
But your curiosity didn't stop.
Oh no, that's true. That's that's kind of what they select for is someone who thrives on learning new stuff. But once you've spent your indentured servitude as a poor graduate student, and I emphasize the term poor. I never did apply for food stamps, but I would have qualified.
Were you donating blood at the local plasmapheresis center?
I needed all the blood that I had. But
they give you a donut.
Collecting shellfish, for quote research, unquote purposes, and stuff like that.
Well, tasting them is research.
Yeah, we did a lot of feeding rate studies and things like that. But coming back to your question about kerosene, again, I don't know the specific technology, but it reminds me very much of what we call the Haber-Bosch process, which was developed by German chemists before World War I. Haber and Bosch were the two guys. That's the name for them. And it was a way of taking atmospheric nitrogen and with high pressure, high temperature, and the proper catalysts, you could fix that nitrogen and turn it into ammonia. And once you've got ammonia, it was easy to turn that into nitrate, which they used for explosives, or for fertilizer.
Okay.
They did that too. Fritz Haber, the guy who was half the inventor, also invented phosgene, and probably a couple.
I knew that was in there. It had to be.
Yeah, poison gases. So kudos to him for some of his work, but He killed a lot of people in the long run, and it wasn't pretty. But what this kerosene method reminds me of is the Haber-Bosch process. So you've got concentrated sunlight, which provides your energy source. The molecules you're ripping up to make the syngas are, carbon dioxide, which is tough to break down, and water, which is also tough to break down. But if you do it, and let me guess, there's a catalyst involved. That's usually how synthetic chemistry operates. In that kind of situation, you've got a catalyst that allows this high temperature, high pressure reaction to proceed. And once you've got the carbon monoxide, the CO, and the H2 there, you can start making organic molecules, and kerosene is basically a long-chain organic molecule. I don't know the exact formula, but it's it's a little heavier than gasoline.
But if you were to distill it, you could actually refine the kerosene into gasoline just by using the same distillation process that we use with crude oil.
You can crack it, gasoline is a lighter hydrocarbon, smaller chain. It's actually a blend of many different hydrocarbons. They talk about octane content of gasoline. And actually, the gasoline's a complex mixture of these medium-chained hydrocarbons. They're big enough to be liquid, small enough to be not very viscous. Kerosene's a little more viscous than gasoline, and diesel fuel is more viscous. Diesel oil is more viscous than that.
Right, that's getting heavier and longer chains and lower on your distillation tower.
Right. If you've ever seen an oil refinery, it's got these long, tall towers called cracking towers, and they're taking the long-chain hydrocarbons and literally cracking the molecules into pieces that are smaller. And those smaller pieces give you gasoline and so on.
Propane all the way up the chain. As it were.
Propane, of course, is a gas. It's a small chain hydrocarbon. The smallest one is methane. It's got one carbon atom in it.
Ooh.
So
and that has to be handled under high pressure to maintain liquid, right?
If you're going to liquefy methane, you got to put it under very high pressure. That's why these LNG, liquid natural gas systems, have these gigantic pressure tanks to transport the stuff. Natural gas is mostly methane.
I did not know that.
So
this is still a remarkable process, in the article he's looking at. He had said that, and this is what really gets me, because we have like Sean Whalen, who's cutting. Sean Whalen is an American, runs a company called Lions Not Sheep, and what he does is he buys a bunch of Chinese T-shirts, he cuts out the labels, and puts in Made in America labels. And then he sells them. And then got busted by the Federal Trade Commission, and now he's all upset. Those are Americans. That's our American invention, right? This guy's coming from Germany, and this guy is so... This is why I have respect for the smart people, for goodness sake, and everybody should. This guy's vision is saying that the total land footprint, Steinfeld says, is needed to create enough solar plants to fully satisfy global demand. Equals about 0.5% of the area of the Sahara Desert. That's a man who's thinking not tomorrow, not next week. He's not talking about his wallet. He's looking at saying, you know what, Russia? We do not need you. I can generate kerosene out of thin air, and we will no longer, and it uses the same infrastructure. So all of your airports that already have fuel delivery systems, there is no difference. Like in the sustainable aircraft fuel that BP was generating, it requires its own delivery system and is incredibly dangerous, and it destroys aircraft engines. This guy is making solar kerosene out of thin air, and he's ramping it up to the point that he can supply the entire global demand for kerosene.
That is fabulous. The really cool thing here is that I mentioned the Haber-Bosch process. Well, that has historically been a very energy-intensive process. Takes a tremendous amount of electricity to make that happen. And so fossil fuels have been used traditionally to make fertilizer, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which is a double whammy.
We extract the poison and we dispense the poison.
Yeah, right. Or explosives, So we burn fossil fuels to make stuff to blow ourselves up.
Sensible.
There are times when that's okay, but
sapiens are not.
Most, especially if you're blown up, it's not so okay. But in this case, with the kerosene method, the energy is coming from the sun. It's free. I mean, you have to have the proper solar
the mirror
devices
movement,
to concentrate
right.
the energy. But once you've bought
payment.
those,
yeah.
The replacement time is going to be very long. So the energy subsidy is essentially free, which is genius to me.
And if you in the article, he even points out if we can build the building itself, the structure that holds the tower, which is really just a frame like a scaffold, if it can be generated from friendly materials, then it could actually have a zero footprint and generate massive amounts of fuel.
Right. Exactly.
Why can't Americans do this? We got to sell T-shirts made in China with a made in USA tag. What?
Oh God! I
am frustrated. I am angered. I am
I tell
nauseated.
You one thing about smart people is that they're distributed across the planet without regard to race, religion, creed, or national origin.
Damn it.
And,
well, we can recruit them. We did that with Einstein and von Braun and a bunch of others, right? So let's go find this guy. Let's offer him a couple of ham sandwiches and a first-class flight to America.
Well, Germany has a long tradition of chemical engineering expertise. Going way back into the 1800s, the Germans developed a petrochemical industry based on coal originally. And they moved into petroleum after that became a big thing in the 20th century. But they've always had a very strong tradition of chemical engineering. And it comes back to, the basic research and education enterprise that they supported. They found those smart people, and they gave them the tools and the resources. Yes, that's right.
And here we just bury them in public school. Here's some Ritalin, you ADHD little bastard. You're not smart. You're just hyperactive. Shut up and sit down.
It can be tougher to take raw talent and develop that raw talent into the refined talent that we need. One of the things about the job market is that engineers in general are always in short supply, and good ones are especially in short supply. Good ones are the ones.
And that's all kinds of engineers: mechanical, atomic, physical, civil, electrical.
The good engineers are the guys who build bridges that don't fall down.
Not Modi or whatever that guy's name is.
Yeah, right. I know a couple of folks, actually close friends and family. I have a niece who is studying chemical engineering at Yale. She's doing a PhD there. Yeah,
she's smart,
and she can write her own ticket. I mean, that kind of talent is again very rare, and you want to encourage that. Right now she's about a year away from finishing her degree, PhD that is, and she's going back and forth about, do I go into the private sector or do I stay in academia? And
don't go to DOD.
Well,
I mean, it's good money, but you have to sleep with yourself at night.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that in a lot of those situations, whether it's government or even private industry, you often have the resources to do some interesting work, but you're doing it because you're told to do it. Okay, they tell you, here's the problem, go fix it.
And this is your required
solution. For a lot of situations, but for a lot of us very creative people, the whole point of creativity is we don't want to be told what to do. We know what to do. We think of that ourselves. Really?
Yeah. We're driven by that.
Yes, exactly. That's an
inherent
really
motivator.
Is. It is an entrepreneurial degree. when you finish a PhD, really what you have accomplished, hopefully, hopefully, is you understand your subject area well enough to know what are the important questions that I need to attack. What are the things worth studying and learning about? And,
gender assignment in the Middle East is not one of them.
It's a tender situation. You don't want to thwart that creativity. You want to let it express itself. On the other hand, there has to be some discipline applied to it. And I could go on and on about the ways in which people go off the tracks in my business, but the fact is the enterprise taken collectively is really pretty productive. And a lot of it has to do with your mindset and the resources available to attack those things that get you intrigued. I've had no problem finding interesting questions here. When PFAS broke, it was like, okay, I'd better learn about that because I know I'm going to be asked those questions. And I'd better have answers that are reasonable and correct.
And they're not going to go anywhere. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
It's only going to grow and
yeah, that's right.
Fester,
that's
I guess, would be a term.
Yeah. So, coming back to let's circle back to the kerosene thing. That is the kind of unexpected benefit you get from turning loose very creative minds. And, then you've got to have the kinds of people who understand how to convert the great idea into reality. That's a different set of skills. But when you've got an idea like that has such tremendous potential, it's an idea that almost sells itself.
My scalp was steaming as I read it. I was like, oh my God, this is the most exciting thing since variable speed transmission. It just, wow. This is amazing stuff.
Right, yeah.
And I had seen a solar tower in real life. I have been in the solar tower on Sandia National Laboratories, Kirtland Air Force Base in Albuquerque. The thing is massive. It's like 2,000 feet tall, 1,800 feet tall. Massive. Right. It's covering about about a mile and a half, 2 square miles of mirrors. Yeah. And they're all at about a 15-foot height at the top, right? And they're tipped at their... And it is impressive to watch, 400, 500 mirrors moving in concert. It's like
right.
And it's that level of brain power to, I can understand putting all the computers together and running a control that controls all the servos. That I get.
Yep.
But the process of just, imagining in your head like Asimov, you're just sitting there staring like Newton. And the apple falls down and you realize, wow, with enough sun power, I can generate kerosene out of thin air.
Yes, exactly. What? And then you need a team of people like that. The chemical engineering part, then you need the guys who understand how to make the mirrors work.
That's me.
And you need, and you need, a bunch of folks to deal with each one of those issues. So you bring together a team of independent experts, in a sense, to make a team. And I'll tell you that one of the things that I've always found most exciting in my career is talking to other technical folks, folks who understand the basic science of the question. And I've had some really interesting chats with folks who in some ways are on the other side of an issue. Without getting too specific, I remember having some conversations with the technical guys from the swine industry. And I have, real concerns about swine waste pollution in our river and so forth and so on. But when we got together to talk about how their treatment lagoons work and how the microbiology operates and how the different chemical inputs work, it was really cool. We're all talking the same language.
Oh, yeah.
It's fascinating, and each of us is learning things from the others, like, oh, okay, that's why that happens.
And it's hard to go back to some sort of random social event, like going to a bar and having conversations with humans. It's like, really, I really don't care. I'm not excited about anything red or blue on your car. Sorry.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Because your mind's been tickled. Your synapses are just firing like mad. And then you have the rest of humanity that are selling made-in-China products with made-in-America tags.
Well, hopefully that guy is in the big house for mail
he paid
fraud.
$115,000 in fines to the Federal Trade Commission and is now under extreme scrutiny, but the website is still up and running, and they are certainly not being shamed off the planet as they should be.
Oh, God,
Germany generates kerosene out of thin air. We get Sean Whalen.
Well, hopefully that's not truly representative of us.
There are so many other stories that I'm not allowed to talk about that are reflective of that since Monday morning. So I'm going to leave that one the hell alone at the moment and just say, you know what? Germany's looking like a fun place to go visit right now.
There's, as I said earlier, there's been a culture there of support for research, scholarship, and investigation. And I think you see it coming through in many different accomplishments. And I'm not disparaging any other country in that way, but Germany, is a relatively small country. I mean, Germany proper is about the size of North and South Carolina.
Oh, okay.
Geographically, right? And it's got, bumping up tens of millions of people living there. So, they've had to have some real serious thought about solving problems like growing food. That was the impetus behind using the Haber-Bosch process for fertilizer. And so on. And, we won't sidetrack off into armed conflict. There were issues there. But
since that time, the development and concentration on education and social requirements, like their infrastructure, is light years ahead of our own.
In some ways, yes, that's right. Now, there are some things that nobody does better than we do. Some of them are illegal, of course. But,
we got our own chemical masters.
We're pretty creative in a lot of ways. I mean, one of the good things about this country that I see over and over and over again is that we have been able to draw really talented people to come here. And that's because of the quality of life, the freedom to do as you wish, to live your life as you wish, and so on. And, we have done such a good job of articulating those values over the years that we've always been able to draw very talented people here. And that's to our credit. You mentioned Albert Einstein and Wernher von Braun. Well, von Braun was brought here. I don't think he had a whole lot of choice in the matter. It was go to the United States.
Either get shot in the head or come here.
Yeah, well, the Russians wanted him, and I don't think he wanted to go to Russia. I can't imagine why. But Einstein
probably for their basketball team.
Yeah.
I'm going to hell
I
for
hear
that one.
that von Braun had a hell of a spin move, and his 3-pointers were, just a work
dropping
of art.
like buckets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guaranteed money, ladies and gentlemen. Guaranteed money right there.
Yeah, that's right.
All we got to do is aim the V2 and hopefully it'll land on a different planet. But no.
We actually had a program, you may have heard of it, Operation Paperclip.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that identified German scientists with a particular focus on scientists who had defense-related skills. And the United States went and found as many of those people as we could find and, quote-unquote, persuaded them to come to the United States. And we were quite often competing with the Russians for those same people. They, by the way, got most of the poison gas guys.
Because they don't care about blue jeans and light beer. But the other guys,
Right.
we gave them blue jeans, light beer, and they hopped on the plane with a smile on their face.
Right. We got more of the rocket guys. And, it's kind of a 6 of one, half dozen of the other sort of mix. But there was intense competition for the German talent pool after World War II. But, we have freely attracted scientists from all over the place. Our new chancellor at UNCW is from India and identifies himself as an American by choice. Most of us are born here, we're Americans,
Right, I didn't pack up a bag and decide I'm going to leave my hellhole of a country and the land of milk and honey.
Leave family and home behind. If you look back in any of our ancestries, Native Americans being an exception, our forefathers and mothers came here from somewhere and left their families behind. My own family's very much like that on both sides. And sometimes they didn't have a choice.
Right, when your house is burned up and you're going to get shot if you don't leave, you grab the nearest floating door and get the hell out of town.
You worship the wrong religion, or you don't like the religion we want you to follow. That was a big one on my father's side, going way back into the 1600s. And so, there were a lot of reasons people came here, and quite often it was a matter of choice. My mother's father, chose to come here. His father brought him over and left him here, and he never went back. But, it means leaving family and home and everything you grew up with behind. In some cases, that's easy. In some cases, that's a very hard thing to do. I find myself having a lot of respect for folks who choose to come here because I know they're leaving behind family, homeland, tradition, and all that. And many immigrants, had issues. On my father's side, the immigrant who came here was killed with a tomahawk during King Philip's War. So, it wasn't the land of milk and honey.
Not then.
Not then.
It was the land of scalps and horse manure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it was a dangerous place. So, again, it comes back to where is the talent? And how is that talent cultivated or not? In the case of this kerosene story, you're looking at real creative genius there. And, that's the kind of thing that no matter who you are, what country it is, you need to encourage that. I mean, humanity has so many problems. We always need problem solvers. And, the degree
we need engineers. We don't need Sean Whalen.
Yeah.
That's my point. And it's a drag on